Have you ever imagined a future that hasn't happened yet? Maybe you imagined a conversation that might take place tomorrow. Maybe you imagined explaining yourself, defending yourself, or finally saying the perfect thing. Maybe you imagined something going terribly wrong, a misunderstanding, an argument, an embarrassing moment. And the strange thing is, none of it has happened. Yet your brain treats it as if it already exists. Your heart beats faster. Your body becomes tense. Your emotions react. All because of a future that only exists inside your imagination. This is something almost every human experiences. You walk alone, and suddenly your mind begins constructing scenarios. Entire conversations appear in your head. You imagine what someone might say. Then you imagine what you will say in response. Then you imagine how the conversation might end. Within seconds, your brain builds an entire story, a future that hasn't happened, and may never happen. Your mind does this constantly, while you are walking, while you are lying in bed, while you are doing something completely unrelated. Suddenly, your thoughts begin projecting possible futures like scenes in a movie. Some of those futures are hopeful. You imagine success. You imagine someone understanding you. You imagine the perfect outcome. But many of those futures are darker. You imagine failure. You imagine rejection. You imagine conflict. You imagine embarrassment. Your brain constructs possibilities that feel incredibly real. But there is something fascinating about this process. Your brain is not simply reacting to the world. It is predicting it. In fact, one of the primary functions of the human brain is prediction. Your brain is constantly trying to answer one question. Instead of waiting for reality to unfold, your brain runs experiments inside your mind. It asks, the humans who survived were the ones who could imagine possibilities before they happened. If you could mentally simulate a dangerous situation, you could prepare for it. You could react faster. You could avoid mistakes. Your brain evolved to become incredibly skilled at anticipating the future. But in the modern world, this powerful ability often turns against us. Because the brain does not only simulate danger, it simulates everything. Social situations, conversations, arguments, embarrassing moments, success, failure. Your mind becomes a storyteller. It constantly writes scripts for futures that may never happen. Imagine someone sends you a short message, just a few words. We need to talk. In another version, it turns into conflict. In another version, something unexpected happens. None of these futures are real. But your brain treats them seriously. It analyzes them. It prepares responses. It rehearses emotions. Your brain is trying to prepare you. But there is a problem. The brain cannot perfectly predict reality. It can only imagine it. And imagination is not always accurate. In fact, the brain often exaggerates possibilities. A small disagreement becomes a dramatic argument. A small mistake becomes a humiliating disaster. A simple conversation becomes something terrifying. This happens because your brain is designed to prioritize potential threats. If your brain prepares for the worst, it believes you will be safe. But this protective mechanism creates a strange side effect. You begin experiencing stress for situations that do not exist yet. You begin preparing for conflicts that may never happen. You begin living in futures that are only imaginary, and slowly, the line between imagination and reality becomes blurred. Your body reacts emotionally to events that have not happened. You might feel nervous about a meeting that is still days away. You might feel embarrassed about something that hasn't even occurred. You might feel anxious about a conversation that may never happen. Your brain is fighting battles that reality has not yet presented. And sometimes, your brain does not only create negative futures, sometimes it creates perfect ones. You imagine finally saying the perfect words. You imagine someone apologizing. You imagine success, recognition, understanding. These imagined futures can feel comforting. They give you a sense of hope, but they can also create expectations that reality may never meet. Because reality is unpredictable. It rarely follows the script your mind has written. And when reality does not match the imagined future, it was designed to prepare you for it. Your brain is often described as a prediction machine. Its primary job is not simply to react to what is happening right now. Its job is to anticipate what might happen next. To do this, your brain constantly builds models of the future. It collects information from your past experiences. It observes patterns. It remembers emotions. And then it tries to imagine what the next moment might look like. In many situations, this ability is incredibly useful. Athletes often visualize their performance before competing. A runner imagines crossing the finish line. A musician imagines playing a difficult piece. A public speaker imagines delivering a confident presentation. These mental simulations can improve performance, because the brain can rehearse actions before they happen. But the same system that helps athletes succeed can also create problems, because your brain does not always know when to stop imagining. Instead of preparing for useful situations, it begins generating endless hypothetical scenarios. You imagine conversations that may never take place. You imagine conflicts that may never occur. You imagine disasters that are extremely unlikely. And the more you imagine these futures, the more real they begin to feel. Your brain reacts to vivid imagination almost as if it were reality. If you imagine something embarrassing, your body may react with discomfort. If you imagine something stressful, your body may release stress hormones. Your heart rate might increase. Your muscles may become tense. Your breathing may change, all triggered by a future that does not exist. This reveals something remarkable about the human mind. Your brain does not perfectly distinguish between reality and imagination. If a thought is vivid enough, your brain treats it seriously. This is why people can feel anxious about situations that have not happened. It is why someone might lie awake at night thinking about a conversation that might occur tomorrow. Your mind keeps replaying possibilities, trying to prepare you, trying to protect you, trying to find the best possible outcome. But there is a hidden danger in this process, because the more time you spend imagining the future, you might spend days worrying about a meeting that turns out to be simple. Your mind fights imaginary battles long before reality arrives. And when reality finally appears, it is often far less dramatic than the scenarios your brain created. This is something many people discover later in life. They realize that most of the things they worried about never actually happened. The futures they feared were simply stories their brain invented. But understanding this does not immediately stop the mind from imagining. because prediction is deeply built into the architecture of the brain. Your mind will continue generating possible futures. It will continue exploring possibilities. It will continue asking, what if? When you notice your mind imagining a future scenario, something interesting happens. You create distance between yourself and the thought. Instead of becoming trapped inside the scenario, you observe it. You see the story forming. You see the predictions. You see the possibilities your brain is generating. And suddenly, those imagined futures lose some of their power. Because you realize something important. A thought is not a prophecy. An imagined future is not a guarantee. It is simply a possibility. Your brain is exploring potential outcomes, running simulations, testing scenarios, trying to protect you, trying to prepare you. But most of the futures your brain imagines will never happen. They are simply stories. Stories written by a mind that is trying to understand a complicated world. And once you recognize that, the freedom to return your attention to the present moment. Because the present moment is the only place where reality actually exists. The future lives only in your imagination. And sometimes the greatest peace comes from remembering that most of the futures your brain creates